like the worst thing in the world for me. Maybe you explained it a little bit better. If you say that you'd love to be a fly on the wall as you were kind of walking around and seeing, the mansion before everything got really scary and there were undead running around. Okay, I could see that. That's a really cool setting. There's a lot of really neat stuff going on there, but it's just scary as hell, and I would never want to be a part of that. Let's see, another mention. Warhammer 40K was mentioned. Whoa, no, 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 no. That's scary. I wouldn't want to be a part of that either. I just don't know, guys. That's scary. Estolia echoed my sentiments 100%. I would never want to be going to the Aperture Science Facility while GLaDOS is in charge. That's just a horrible idea, guys. Having the portal gun and being able to run around your house, great idea. Having being in the portal universe, terrible idea. That just sounds like, everything is just terrible, right? It's just an awful place to be. I don't understand why you guys would say that at all. Diablo got mentioned as well. And I'm sorry, that's just a terrible thing. I would never want to be a part of what's going on in Diablo. I'm just fine clicking a mouse repeatedly and watching people do the work for me. It's immersive enough as it is. I don't want to be a part of it. But it really beckons a question that I think got asked a few times by you guys, and that is, what would I be able to handle some of the situations that happen in these games? I'm telling you, for all the questionable ones I just mentioned, I know for a fact I would not. And I think part of what makes, several of you talked about this, and I agree 100%. If you are, sometimes a requisite portion of a video game scenario and setting is that it's a place where you would want to be. It's a place where you would want to be without some kind of supernatural power or ability or what have you. So, in my opinion, that might be really cutting to the heart of what we're trying to talk about here. So maybe maybe you guys have hit it right on the head with all the questionable ones that I think are just hellish universes. I wouldn't want to be a part of any of that stuff. Keep me in the nice, safe places where I can go and enjoy some nice scenery or see an awesome moment from a game and just be happy about it, right? Surprisingly, none of you mentioned Final Fantasy VII, which I thought would be a pretty popular item. I'm okay with that. I'm not saying that's going to be on my list, but I thought that would be one that would definitely get a mention or two. And one thing I do have to say before I move on, several of you also mentioned Chrono Trigger, and that one, it goes without saying. That game did more to create a setting that was just so wonderfully inviting that I'm almost at a loss for it. It's so that game is nostalgic without even having ever played it before. I hope that makes sense, because nostalgic is kind of a lacking. Everything in it, the colors are a little bit sullen. There's a little bit of kind of memory imbued in all of it, because you're dealing with this timeline, and that's always at the forefront of this game. And so I have to say, I want to say thank you for all of you that said Chrono Trigger, because I can't agree more. It's definitely right up there. It's number one or number two for me. Which I guess should lead me into my conversation about what I want to do and what I want to talk about this time. And what I want to talk about for myself, there are a few I think that get honorable mention. Some of them I've already mentioned. I'll give you a few more before I pick one. One is Braid, the Jonathan Blow game Braid. With that game, you're not kind of, constantly in peril, right? But it's a beautiful world that just looks so incredibly inviting. And it does what I think so many games, like Snapshot, those of you that watched the interview from PAX on Snapshot, Snapshot does the same thing. They're trying to take the best of the two-dimensional kind of Super Nintendo 8-bit graphic world and just maximize it. Bring it to the limits of what today's technology could offer. And I just love that idea. And Braid does it, and Snapshot does it, I think, just to the greatest possible extent. And so those are two that I think, and I haven't even played Snapshot at any kind of great length. But Braid is one of those games I would love to jump right back into. Good. There were a lot of things that you guys brought up that I would agree with, obviously, to be able to jump into. But I think if I'm going to have to make a decision, that overall, everything considered, I'm probably just going to have to agree with Mr. K. I love, love, love the Final Fantasy VI universe. It's a setting I would love to be a part of. The very beginning of the game with Narsh and the snow, but the kind of almost kind of cyberpunk, or I don't know what the real, I guess, name for it would be. But just, did I say cyberpunk? I meant steampunk. Sorry, guys. I don't know where that came from. Sorry, it's been a long weekend. But, you know, there's all of this kind of steam-powered stuff going on, but it's also, you know, a beautiful kind of setting. There's mist and fog in the air, and it's very mysterious, but at the same time very beautiful and inviting. And Nobuo Uematsu does just such an amazing job of encompassing that setting in music that I don't know that there's anything else I'd like to do more in video games than just see those things happening. And if I had to pick a moment, you know, I probably have to say the opera. The opera is probably my favorite moment inside any video game. That moment in Rapture probably takes a close second. There are a few moments in Half-Life and Half-Life 2 that are right up there, the best moments. So maybe I'll ask a question about moments sometime, and I'll have some more time to think about it. But those are what I have to say are my favorites. So I think there are a lot of great worlds there, guys, to be a part of. So I hope yours was on there. If it isn't, you know, feel free to launch us into the forums. I wanted to throw that out there. We've talked about this several times. I created a forum for the PlayStation thread. You know, you guys don't have to worry about that. If you guys want to push a conversation into the forum and even post to let us all know, do it. I mean, you know, sometimes I take a little prodding to get involved with the forums. If you want to send me a private message on the site, or if you want to send me an email, please do so and let me know, hey, I've started a forum and I'd love for you to talk about it or become involved. If you do that, I promise, guys, I'll definitely get involved. That helps me kind of limit my forum time, which is definitely limited, but to be able to plug in like that every once in a while is just fine. So, with that, I've wrapped up the discussion from last week in terms of video game settings. You guys asked a lot of really great questions, and what I want to leave you with is a question I think that really gets to the heart of it, and that is, isn't the point of these great video game settings really to be immersive in some way, shape, or form, right? In many ways, video games, I mean, television, film, all those things, the reason that I think, and even reading books, novels, those kinds of things, they become immersive, and I think that's why we like them. And I think that we as video gamers are kind of unique because we really relish that experience of being immersed. And so I think one of the reasons why I really wanted to ask that question of you guys is because I think that is unique to the video game community. Yeah, people enjoy films and they like those worlds and they're kind of geeks about that. But I think us as video gamers, we're really looking for those experiences. And I think were I still doing video game research, that would be an issue I would definitely love to investigate further. And maybe I'll write a book about that someday. Anyway, so there you go. That's those are my thoughts about last week's question. And now it's time to move on to an exciting question for this coming week. That, as I teased at the beginning of the Wringer this week, is a question I've had since the very beginning. I thought this was a really cool question. I almost asked it on Valentine's Day, to be honest, but I thought the video game Valentine question was better. Now, should I just save it for next Valentine's Day? You know, probably, but that's okay. It's all right. This is a great question. It's just something I thought of during the course of the week, and I thought, you know what? I really want to ask it. I want to keep the lid on it anymore. Here's my question for you guys. Do you use video gaming as a prerequisite for your dating relationships? So what I mean by that is, do you guys find it necessary that you date someone that enjoys video games as well? Or have you found, I mean, I know that many of the folks in our audience are married with children. You know, has that been something that's been necessary for you? Maybe you guys can share some stories as to how maybe things that went very, very well with video games, things that went very, very wrong with video games. The point is, I just want to ask about if you guys use that as a prerequisite in your dating relationships. No right or wrong answer, but I can't wait to see what you guys are going to come up with, because I know there are going to be a lot of really cool answers to this one. So we'll review those and get, of course, my thoughts on the matter, which should also be pretty awesome. If I do say so myself, I've got a lot of thoughts on the subject. Any of you that want to go watch some of the painful memories again to maybe get a hint or a clue as to what my feelings might be, feel free. But anyway, so yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. Feel free to get those comments moving, get some of those ideas flowing, and let's talk about video games and relationships, two of my favorite things to talk about. So that is the weekly ringer for this week, and that's also the question for next week. So get on it, and we'll see where things get moving to for next week. All right, everybody, thanks so much for watching. As always, I am the Commodore from the clan of the Grey Wolf, and there is no reset button.